Hey everybody, it's Aunt Suzie and her fabulous sex cast, and oh my gosh, what an exciting show we have today. And we're celebrating a month of Pride here on my fabulous sex cast and the folks at Suzie's. And I'm joined today with my fabulous producer, Ashlyn Berry. But let me tell you, some of the biggest movers and shakers are here in our studios this month. And today he was for 12 years the host of the Frank DeCaro Show on Sirius XM. He was 6 years as the flamboyant movie critic on The Fabulous Daily Show. And this year, he's got a book that just came out called Drag, Combing Through the Big Wigs of Show Business. And on top of that, he's got his book that came out over 20 years ago, a pioneering gay book, his biography called A Boy Named Phyllis. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the fabulous Frank DeCaro. And Frank, we're going to get right to it. How are you celebrating Pride? Are you ready for it?
I'm doing well, although the fact that I haven't worn any pants that have anything other than a stretch waistband for 10 weeks is a bit of a problem. But other than that, I'm doing just fine.
I know. How many people are going to get used to like going out to restaurants with all their pants on? You know, most people have just been sitting around in the underwear eating, crepe block soup, stuff like that. But my gosh. Okay. We're going to start this off here because, this year you've done some incredible things. You have the fabulous book, The Big Wigs of Drag, which is incredible. The Big Wigs of Show Business, rather. I want to ask something.
Yes.
You were self-proclaimed. Oh, by the way, there's Ashlyn, my producer's on the line here with us. Ashlyn, say hi to Frank DeCaro.
Hi, Frank. I am a big fan of yours, and I am a big fan of drag, so I'm super excited to talk to you.
I'm your fella. I'm so happy to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
So you're the I guess you're calling yourself a self-proclaimed drag hag. Is that what you call yourself, Frank?
Well, I'm drag hag number one, I think. The Rizzoli, the publisher, came to me and said, would you do a book on drag? And I thought, why me? I don't do drag. I'm not. And then I started to realize that I was really someone who had a front row seat for the best drag for the last 30, 40 years since I was a little teeny kid, and so I've met so many of the greatest practitioners of drag, and seen them perform live and followed their careers, and it turned out that I was drag hag number one, and so I was, in fact, the perfect person to do this.
And okay, Ashlyn had a question, and I couldn't answer it, but Ashlyn, what was that question about the cover of the book?
Yeah, so I looked at the cover and I immediately thought, is that Ginger Minge? But then I thought, is that you? Who is that on the cover?
No, that's actually Tempest du Jour, the pride of Tucson, Arizona. She was on RuPaul's Drag Race, and she's a wonderful performer, and her alter ego is a dad and an animal activist and raises wonderful, all sorts of exotic animals, and it's just a sweetheart. So, that's Tempest du Jour. And it's an instant makeover to hold the book over your eyes when you do Zoom, and then you don't even have to get ready. As long as you've shaved, you're fine.
I'm going to do that. Good. I'm going to do that next time.
I love it.
I'm going to do that. Frank, let me ask you a question. When was the first time that you saw a drag show?
Okay, an actual drag show.
A drag queen or a drag? Okay, when was the first time you saw a drag queen that inspired you to go to a drag show?
Okay, well, I think the first one was watching the Munsters when I was a kid. Herman Munster was hit by a bolt of electricity and turned into a cocktail waitress. So that was the first.
Oh my gosh!
I
forgot about that episode. Oh my gosh!
Yeah. So that was the first one. But my first drag queen is who I dedicated the book to, and her name was Mimi. And Mimi was at a bar called Charlie's West in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And we were, it was in East Orange, New Jersey, in a bit of a dangerous neighborhood. And we would go anyway. And she would wear, she wore this like sequined sheath dress in the colors of the Italian flag. So she didn't really tuck. But she would lip sync. Her signature was she would lip sync to "Where the Boys Are" by Connie Francis, and when she got to "I Wait Impatiently," she would find the international symbol for jerking off. That was her thing. So it was classy and tasteful, and I loved it. So she was my first drag queen, and so I ended up dedicating the book to her.
Aw, that's amazing. We didn't know that. That's so great. I mean, and speaking of the monsters, your other book, A Boy Named Phyllis, that you wrote, 20 years ago?
Yeah, even more. Yeah,
I mean,
24 since it came out. This month, actually.
They call it the pioneering queer memoir. Is that what it is?
That's what the kids call it now. Yeah, we didn't call it that then, but it was about growing up in a little flamboyant gay boy in New Jersey in the 60s and 70s, and now it's out as an audiobook on Audible. After all these years, it had been out of print for about 20 years.
Oh my!
And now it's back, and I read I read it, and so you can spend 8.5 hours in the car with me if you like, or wherever. Stay home with me these days.
Spend the evening with Frank DeCaro and read real slowly.
It's better on TV or on a down.
Well, because it said, in the book, you talked about most kids live their lives in that era, like it was episodes of Leave It to Beaver or the Brady Bunch. But you were convinced your family was the Munsters?
That's what I tell people, yeah. It was. I mean, my grandmother lived downstairs, and she used to say, "I'm going down to the dungeon." So she used to pretend she was Grandpa Munster for me.
Oh, how funny.
And my mother, and of course our last name DeCaro, it's close to DeCarlo, like Yvonne DeCarlo.
Oh my God.
So I was convinced my mother was secretly related to Yvonne DeCarlo. I had my own little world going on there, and I always tell people, I said I was sort of by default cast as Eddie Munster, but I really felt like Marilyn Munster. I was the odd person out in this family, and I was the weirdo. And that was kind of my TV show as a kid, and it's still my favorite show to watch.
Oh, it's endless. We did my nephew Michael did the Paul Lynde voice for the pinball machine that came out last year. You interviewed him on your show a couple of times.
He's wonderful. Yes, and Paul Lynde had a huge influence on me, and that's in the book as well. I talk about how Paul was the reason I became a performer at all,
really?
And he was the reason I went to Northwestern.
Well,
so I really did pick my university based on the fact that Paul Lynde went there. So I don't think that's the best strategy for choosing a university, but if you get in, you do it. And I did. It worked out nicely.
Well, that's
hey,
Paul Lynde.
How pop culture has an effect on your life,
Of course. Well, I think it affects so many different people, especially in the LGBTQ community, because so many of us had to live back in the day, we had to live a fantasy life because we weren't able to be as out as people are today. These young kids. Some of them have it, some of them don't have it easy. It depends on where their demographics are. But to be able to live an out life, they have so many outlets to express themselves and to come forward, But,
it's very different. Now, I had the funniest thing happen. We were talking to a church group, actually, as my husband and I, as a gay couple, a very liberal church.
I was going to say.
There was a kid there who obviously was going to be coming out, and he was like 12 or 13 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, I came out of the closet when I was 16. And his hand went up immediately with a question. And I said, yes. And he said, why did you wait so long? And that's how things have changed.
Wow. Yes. I mean, growing up and writing about you growing up in suburbia, can you give us one of your fondest memories of growing up? One of your fondest memories?
I think, it was a number of things, but I think my fondest memory growing up was sitting watching television with my parents in the TV room, and my dad wasn't always he'd been through World War II and was kind of depressed a lot of the time. And when I would watch him laugh at something like Sanford and Son and just weep with laughter, I think that was really one of the times I loved the most. And trying to make him laugh really became sort of an impetus for my career and my my work. It was, let's try and cheer this guy up, and I think that that had a huge influence for me, because I think my job title is mirth maker. I try and make people feel better, make them laugh here or there, or lighten their loads a little bit, so to speak. Not in that naughty way, but in a nice way. And and that's sort of what I do for a living, whether it's what I post, or when I'm doing an interview, or when I'm writing a book, or whatever. It's kind of to take people out of their everyday lives and inject a little bit of color into it, and make them laugh and make them feel better about themselves.
I mean, you were inspired by Paul and snide laughter, Liberace's costumes, Elton John's fabulous disco persona. I mean, you talk about Elton John gave you a strategy that you used throughout your life. What was that?
Well, I always thought you take the flamboyance that people made fun of you for, and Liberace did this, and so many people did, but you take what they picked on you for, and you sell it back to them, and you make it your strongest suit, and you make it what you bring to the party, and celebrate it instead of being derided for it. So that was the problem with having Elton John as an idol, though, is his spending habits and his hoarding habits rubbed off on me too. Yes, I do love to, money burns a hole in my pocket. And I do love, if you can have one of something, 20 of them is better, Right. So, I mean, I was getting teased the other day from a friend who's reading Elton John's memoir. And she said, oh, my God. She said, I got to the said he couldn't stop shopping. And he said, and I realized you are the way you are. And I was like, yep. It was huge influence.
Oh, my gosh. Where's your favorite place to shop? Where's your favorite place to shop? What's your favorite store?
Well, these days I don't go anywhere anymore. But when I do, what I love? My favorite place. I love Mr. Turk. They are the most flamboyant clothes, and yet they're kind of chic in a loud, queer kind of way, and I love them a lot. So I think that's the store I like to go in, and I want to leave with 10 things.
Is that in Los Angeles?
There's one in Palm Springs. There's one in Los Angeles. There's they're pretty great. Every time you see sort of a Ross Matthews in a blazer on RuPaul's Drag Race, and you want the blazer, it's usually a Mr. Turk. It's loud, gay, fun party clothes.
It's sort of like the international.
I think my favorite.
Like the international male catalog for the new millennium. Do you remember those? The international male catalog.
It'd be good right now, because you could order a caftan in there. But Mr. Turk makes caftans too, so it's good. Because, oh my God, I've been cooking so much during quarantine that it's delicious, but it's, you worry about, I'm an enemy of patio furniture again. I worry when I sit down too fast on a folding chair, I'll kill it, so it's a little disconcerting. I've lost so much weight, but it comes back when you make baked ziti and tamale pie and lasagna, and every specialty is one fattening thing after another. Today I was like, I think I need to make a carrot cake this afternoon.
Oh my God. See. I'm on my way.
Aunt Susie, you're always well.
4.5 hours. I'll be there from Vegas in a heartbeat. Hey, are you?
It'll be good. Truly, it'll be good.
Your husband must love it that you cook. He's very handsome. He's very handsome, by the way.
He doesn't like when I food push, because if I'm hungry, I'm like, hey, would you like this? Because then you don't feel so guilty. But yeah, he's very happy. Turns out I'm a good quarantine buddy. I really am. I clean. I sleep a lot, so it's quiet. It's turned out to be okay. I feel bad for people who only have frozen dinners, because I'm always making something to eat.
Right. I know. And plus, you're Italian. I love you talking about your grandmother, how she used to sit in the basement and cuss. Shit.
Oh my! She did. She would sit and read like Valley of the Dolls, and she had a sailor vocabulary. And she'd call me downstairs, and we'd watch Dark Shadows, the soap opera, and then we would watch the 4:30 movie, and it would be like, whatever happened to Baby Jane?
Oh my God!
She loved that. She was a pincer, and she'd watch wrestling, so you could go sit and watch wrestling with her. And yeah, she was really a huge influence, and she took no prisoners, that one. Boy, was she funny.
Oh my God. Nothing better than a funny Italian grandmother. I'm telling you.
No, or you know what's good? A funny Jewish grandmother is good too, but they're kind of the same thing.
Yeah, they are.
So,
They just have a different accent. One has kreplach, the other has lasagna. No, gnocchis. Kreplachs and gnocchis. That's the difference between the two. Now you were opening for Lisa Lampanelli because I actually got to see you with her here in Vegas. I never got backstage because they were assholes and wouldn't let me go back there. But are you? I know nobody's performing anywhere right now, but will you go? What was it like working with Lisa?
Oh my God, talk about jumping into the deep end. I mean, she's truly one of the great comic minds of ever, really.
Right,
I mean, no one stumps her. She is brilliantly funny and so quick on the draw, and really holds you up to high standards. Mm-hmm. She sort of popped to me out of the radio and said, "You know what? You've been doing sit-down comedy. I know you can do stand-up." And so I traveled with her for 4 years, and we played, but you talk about starting at the deep end. My first time seriously doing stand-up, like really doing a set, was at Mission in front of 1,000 people. So, that's like sink or swim, and it went really well. And then I just took it more and more seriously, and I have to say, I really didn't bomb once. It was really great, and I mean, for 4 years. Wow. To jump in the deep end and swim when you know that the lifeguard is there, there's a brilliant comedian who will help you. It was pretty amazing. And when we decided, she was transitioning to the storytelling show, and so we ended up going back to being friends. I said, "Look, I want to focus on promoting this drag book and being the host of drag panels and that sort of thing. And I want to focus on that." And she said, "Well, I want to focus on storytelling." And I said, "Good, let's go back to being friends." And so that's what we decided to do. And after 4 years, we're pals again instead of colleagues. And it's great. And it's really been great. But what a masterclass to sit and wait for hundreds of performances and watch this master work and really learn how to be funnier. And I mean, I look at it as finishing school because I'm a much better host now than I ever was because of that experience. And I'm very, you can throw a microphone and go run out and do 5 minutes, and keep, I need help, go do 5 minutes and keep the crowd entertained. I know how to do that now. So it was very much, a trade school, and I learned something, and she was very generous with her expertise, and it was so fun, and to be able to count her really as a friend. I'm not someone who has a lot of celebrity friends. I mean, I rub elbows with them, but it's not like I'm friends with them. But she is someone I can call at 2:00 in the morning and say, "You got to help me with this," Well, what's your advice on fill in the blank? She's really my friend, and so it's nice to have her in my corner, and nice to be believed in by someone that talented. So we all love.
And you're very good at it, by the way. Very good at it.
Thank you. Yeah, it was pretty fun. Boy, what a thing. I always told her, I said she gave me the dream I never knew I had. So it was, I had never really thought about doing stand. Even I fantasized about it, but I never took it serious.
Those are called wet dreams, Frank. Didn't you talk about those things? But you've written other books, like you wrote a book about another LGBTQ icon. What was it? Bob Mackie. You wrote a book about Bob Mackie.
That was early. I wrote my own memoir. Then I wrote for Bob. I wrote this gorgeous sort of coffee table biography. He hired me to write words, and so it was a lot of, you're sitting around and waiting for Cher to call, then you're waiting for Anne Margaret to call, and then Mitzi Gaynor to call, and Carol Burnett to call. So it was thrilling to be able to talk to all these amazing people, and RuPaul interviewed her as well. Really, I got to interview Bob and all of his ladies, and then they put this gorgeous book together. And they're the same people who put the drag book out. So it was both Rizzoli titles. Wow. So 20 years apart, still it was pretty amazing. And Bob is, everything I've done has been about an art form, artist or something
Mm-hmm.
that I have tremendous love and admiration for. And no matter what when I just go on and on about how brilliant Bob is, I can't thank him enough for the glamour that he injected in our lives growing up in the 70s, watching television. We were kind of glitter deprived in the burbs there. And then you saw Cher every week, Carol every week, and you laughed and and you saw how glamorous life could be. And he gave us dreams and showed us that there was a sparkly world out there that you could hope to join. And I've been very lucky because I don't necessarily live in the celebrity world, but I certainly get to visit it a lot of times, and it's fun, and I'm very lucky. So,
okay,
and he showed us how to game, as they say.
And I have to ask, the Dead Celebrity Cookbook.
Oh, two volume, two. Yeah, there was a Christmas volume.
Are you serious? A Christmas volume too?
Yeah, no, I did it because, and it's honestly the same reason as doing the drag book. It was to tell people about performers who influenced me and brought me tremendous joy and pleasure, and I want people to remember them. So, in the cookbooks, it was funny men like Paul Lynde with his beef stew recipe, or or his diet waffles. I don't remember which recipe I went with, but it was a lot about performers who were fun, who I didn't want people to forget. So my impetus really was to write tributes to amazing performers, and the recipe was kind of the bonus. Right. But we packaged it as a cookbook because it was, a fun way to do it. There's a new book out. My former Daily Show colleague, Mo Rocca, has a book called Mobituaries. And
oh my gosh, that's funny.
It's the same thing. It really is here are people you should know about who I think are interesting. And it's the same kind of impulse. And I don't know if that's a gay thing or if that's just a factor of getting older, wanting to see people's legacies preserved. So maybe you have a legacy of your own that someone will know about. I'm not sure. I think it's a little bit of that. For me, I think ever since my parents passed away, I've been more concerned with what one leaves behind. And so that's where writing about drag history and writing about Dead Celebrity Cookbook, it really is kind of the same impulse. It's don't forget these people, know about them, treasure them, keep their memory alive. So I think that's it.
And speaking of Mo Rocca, we have to hit with Steve Colbert and the Daily Show. I mean, Steve Colbert has you on a lot on his CBS show. What was it like 6 years being the flamboyant movie critic?
Oh, when I was on the Daily Show, I've never been on his show. Oh,
I thought weren't you on his show when they did about 3 or 4 or 5 months ago? Didn't they do a thing where they everybody came back and said hello to him or something?
No, there was one Daily Show reunion. We did a Daily Show Original Gangsters at an event called Politicon, and I did do that. And about the same time, I was written up as one of the top. Rolling Stone called me one of the favorite correspondents who's ever been on the Daily Show. So that was pretty swell.
I have to stop drinking. I have to stop drinking.
It was swell. It made me very happy. But no, I haven't been on his show because you really have to be a big star. You have to be a celeb. And I'm a demi-celeb at best. So I haven't been on there. However, the Daily Show I was on about 170 times on the Daily Show.
Right.
Which is a lot over 6.5 years. So it was very fun, and those who remember it fondly. So I'm very lucky.
So were you on? Okay, help me here with the timeline. So were you on the Daily Show first, and then you went to Sirius,
Sirius was after I did.
Okay.
1996, my book A Boy Named Phyllis came out, which is the one that's now on Audible.
Right.
But anyway, it came out. I went on there to promote my book. And then they said, talk about movies. And they had an idea. And suddenly I became the flamboyant movie critic on the show. And so I was 6.5 years there. And then when that ended, Sirius began a year later. And I was on there for 12 years.
Right.
And the day I began my first day being unemployed from Sirius, I was at the Grammy Awards with Lisa Lampanelli, and so I did 4 years with her.
Wow.
And then the moment that ended, I was doing the drag book. So it's been one thing after another, and I've been very lucky. And, to get out there, and, you keep on keeping on is all any of us can do.
You just throw it. You never give up. It's like the what do I call it? Oh gosh, it's the healing power of the show must go on. That's what I call it. Never stop.
Stick-to-itiveness, as they say, is the best thing. You really got to keep going. And Aunt Susie, you keep performing. You know what it's like.
Of course. Of course. My sister, my crazy-ass sister, she was opening in Vegas. She was the first drag person, Esther. She was the first person ever in the history of Vegas to have her drag name over the top of the title before Rue came in. Esther was the first person. It was the Esther Goldberg's Totally Outrageous Brunch. And Frank Marino had his name, but we're talking an actual drag name of someone that was a drag character. And she did that last year, so that was pretty cool. That's pretty cool. That's
great. Now, is it odd having a drag queen as a real woman, having a drag queen sister, or is that okay with you?
I take Adderall. I snort it every now and then. It can be a little crazy, Frank. And then my nephew Michael, who does Paul Lynde, I'm telling you, my dog is in therapy here. There's so many crazy people walking around this place. I'm telling you. Let me ask you.
It is a colorful town, I have to say.
It is.
Adderall. I've been doing Lexapro, which is a Lexapro with an Aperol spritzer chaser. So that's
love it.
Take antidepressant and then you wash your back with with an Aperol spritzer. That's getting me through quarantine. So Lexapro, Michael.
And then, oh my gosh, I was watching the news this morning, and they've already told Arizona. Arizona's already going in. They're activating their emergency things with the hospitals. It's like, oh my God, are we going to have a second wave? Is this going to end? Oy,
yes.
Vault.
We're never going out. What we're doing right now is all we're ever going to do. I hope it's some way you like, because we're making banana bread and we're talking on the Zoom and the Skype, and that's what we're going to do until they find a vaccine, and then we'll come back out, and it'll be like when the munchkins wake up, and we'll come out again. But I ain't going out till they figure it out.
Let me ask you a question.
In the meantime, I'm going to need that recipe for that Lexapro spritz.
Okay. First, once you get the prescription for the Lexapro, you get that in hand. So you fill it up, but then it's a little Aperol, a little champagne or Prosecco, and then a splash of soda water or seltzer, and you stir it up nice, and then knock one back, hope for the best, and then that and reruns of stupid television I think are really good. I can't all be highbrow. I mean, I watched all 6 seasons and the movie of Downton Abbey in 2 weeks. I mean, that's like 50 hours of television in 2 weeks. So that was great. But I also watch Barnaby Jones now, which is Jed Clampett is now a private detective.
Right.
It's about 1973. So I watched that, and they drive huge cars and they wear polyester, and then they solve crimes. So I like that.
I watch Green Acres on Hulu.
I know. It's wonderful.
It's like great stuff. Okay. Here's a question for you. What is a little known piece of the LGBTQ history you wish more people knew about?
Okay, this is the thing. This was the mind blower that's in my book, Drag, Combing Through the Bigwigs of Show Business.
Okay.
In 1912, Julian Eltinge, a female impersonator, was given his own Broadway theater in his own name in 1912. Okay, so 108 years ago, a drag queen had her own Broadway theater, the Julian Eltinge Theater. That's the little tidbit that blew my mind.
Wow. Did you ever get to meet people like Charles Pierce and Jim Bailey? Were you fortunate enough to meet them?
I never met Jim Bailey, but I saw him in Atlantic City. Mm-hmm. Charles Pierce I saw at the ballroom, and I did interview him.
Right.
So that was great. In doing this book, I mean, I had seen and met Divine. I had interviewed I'd seen Sylvester perform. I had seen Flip Wilson perform in drag.
Oh my
I'd
gosh.
seen Milton Berle in a dress, believe it or not. And I got to follow the careers of so many people. So it was kind of thrilling to put everybody that I loved in this book. And so, yeah, I had a front row seat for a lot of this stuff. And I used to go to Wigstock when it was new. And, I wish I had seen things like Drag 66 here in Los Angeles, which everyone raves about.
You never got to go to that? Oh my gosh.
No,
Paul.
I wasn't coming out to LA while that was a thing, really.
Yeah.
But I was going to the New York counterparts. You know, I was at the Love Ball when white people basically discovered voguing. I was at the Love Ball.
Is that like what Pose is all about? Is that what like Pose?
Yeah, there was a scene at the Love Ball in Pose, and I was like, I was there. You know, it's also it's in Paris is Burning as well. There's footage, and it's odd to watch this landmark documentary, and you're like, yeah, I was in that room that night, and so I was very lucky to have been able to see firsthand some of the greatest talents. There are always more, and you learn about them, and you find footage, and you know, it's exciting. That's what I encourage people to do. It's to go down that drag rabbit hole on YouTube and watch old stuff. You know, it's amazing what's out there.
Okay, one more question before we have to move on.
Okay.
What do you want to see more? What would you like to see more in terms of the LGBTQ representation in popular media?
My goal in all that I do is that someday LGBTQ people will be seen as the everyman or the everywoman, where we really get to be the late night talk show host, not the gay late night talk show host. You know, that we get to be that you write a memoir, and just because you're gay doesn't mean only gay people read it.
Right.
It really is. I want us to be truly in the mainstream. And I was saying to someone, we were talking about drag, I said, it would make me happy if drag queens were booked the same way a stand-up comedian was booked. It wasn't, you know, that you'd turn on a late night talk show and the last 10 minutes would be a stand-up set by a drag queen. And, you know, and it wasn't a big deal that the person was in drag. It was just that they were funny and that they brought them out there. And, you know, they should be sitting on a panel to talk about the issues of the day, not just, you know, a new season of Drag Race. They should be out there the way anybody funny and smart called upon to talk.
Frank, you are the best.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming on today. Ashlyn, was this great? Ashlyn, did you learn something?
Yes, and I'm like I said, I'm a huge fan of drag. So hearing you talk about being at the Love Ball is so amazing, and you know everything you just said about representation of queer people in popular media. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I'm thrilled to be on here. Happy Pride everywhere.
Well, we're gonna put a link up to Phyllis, A Boy Named Phyllis. We're gonna put a link up to combing through the big wigs of show business. We're gonna do whatever we can to sell you some books and some audio books as well, Frank.
Thanks, and follow me at Frank DeCaro Show.
Frank DeCaro Show. We'll put all of those links up. I'll write you, or Ashlyn will write you, and we'll get the correct URLs and put it all together for you. And Frank, thank you again. I'm coming from one of those Adderall spritzers, and I'll be in LA in another 2 weeks.
I'll see you then.
And
Bye,
a big hug to your husband. Bye-bye, love. There we go. And that